Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Craig Burrell, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Navy is Lieutenant Commander Peter Bartholomews. We are honoured to acknowledge Mr Christian Cambo, Co-President of the Senate Working Group Australia, What Place for France in the New World, of the French Senate Commission of Foreign Affairs, Defence and Defence Forces, His Excellency Mr Christophe Lecourtier, French Ambassador to Australia, and the accompanying delegation. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL and Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria and RSL Queensland, who are watching broadcast of this ceremony around Australia. This evening, wreaths will be laid by visitors as well as students on behalf of the following schools. From Western Australia, Singleton Primary School. From New South Wales, St Joseph's School, Mungandai. Ross Hill Public School, Inverell. Canamble Public School and Canwell Public School. Please stand and join in singing the National Anthem. Students, please be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn their loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the hearts of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and other operations over more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the pool of reflection.
Today, we pay tribute to Flight Lieutenant Robin Ordell, who was killed on active service with the Royal Air Force during the Second World War. Born in Sydney on the 16th of June 1920, Robin Ordell was the son of William Raymond Ordell and Ethel May Ordell of Vaucluse, New South Wales. William Ordell, better known as Tal, was a well-known film and stage actor, as well as a writer and artist. Following in his father's footsteps, Robin also became an entertainer and appeared in a stage production alongside his father when he was just 6 years old. Robin Ordell was a well-known radio broadcaster and entertainer by the time he gave up his job at Radio 2GB to pursue his passion for flying. He enlisted in the Royal Australian Air Force at Woolloomooloo on Anzac Day, 1942. Robin's stepbrother, Graham Smith, also enlisted in the RAAF and survived the war. During his training, Ordell continued his work as an entertainer in the RAAF stage plays and reviews. He trained as a pilot and soon embarked for overseas service to Canada and then Britain. As part of the Empire Air Training Scheme, Ordell was one of almost 27,500 RAAF pilots, navigators, wireless operators and gunners and engineers who joined squadrons based in Britain throughout the course of the war. After arriving in Britain, Ordell undertook further specialist training before being posted to No. 100 Squadron, Royal Air Force. As part of RAF's Bomber Command, No. 100 Squadron was equipped with a 4-engined Avro Lancaster heavy bomber. On the night of the 3rd of February 1945, Ordell was taking part in a bombing raid on the Prosper Benzol works in Germany's industrial area. Ordell and 5 of his fellow crewmates, Australians, Pilot Officer Ian Osborne, Warrant Officer John Killen, Flight Sergeant Keith Reynolds and Flight Sergeant Raymond McCaskill, and Britain Sergeant Charles Skerr, were all killed in action. The only member of the crew to survive was the British tail gunner, Flight Sergeant J. Harper, who became a prisoner of war and spent the rest of the war in hospital, recovering from his injuries. Robin Ordell was 24 years old. His body and those of his crewmates were recovered and buried at St Elizabeth Cemetery, Venray, in the Netherlands, before being transferred to the British and Commonwealth War Cemetery in Mierlo, in Noord-Brabant. Having conducted a number of operations and for displaying utmost fortitude, courage and devotion to duty, Ordell was posthumously awarded the Distinguished Flying Cross. This was presented to his father by the Governor of New South Wales in a ceremony at Government House in Sydney on the 27th of February 1947. Ordell's name is listed on the Roll of Honour to my left, among some 40,000 others who died while serving in the Second World War. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Flight Lieutenant Robert Ordell, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we who are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we shall remember them.
lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Poziere or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the last post ceremony. Thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial and good evening.